you want to take a look at the 5 closest people to you in your circle. The quality of your life or who you're eventually going to become is largely a reflection of the people that are around you. So what you want to do is you want to ensure that you're surrounding yourself with people who understand where you're going and who can encourage you and help you on that journey of growth. You don't want to surround yourself with people who have different values from you. You don't want to surround yourself with people who do not see the vision of the future you're trying to create for yourself.
Welcome to the 360 Growth Podcast. This is a space for intentional conversations about growing in every area of your life. If you want to grow in your faith, your career, your business, your mindset, your discipline, your impact, and your influence, this is the right place to be. If you're serious about becoming the best version of yourself and stepping into all God intends you to be, you're in the right place. I want you to join me on this growth journey. Let's grow fully, let's grow intentionally, and let's grow without excuses. Today, I want to talk about a topic very dear to my heart. And it's something not usually talked about a lot. Now, everyone wants growth. We all want better careers. We want better businesses. We want a better quality of life. We want more influence, more discipline, more impact, more confidence, more spiritual depth. We want to become better. But what we don't talk about enough is the cost of growth. Growth is very, very expensive. And when I say growth is expensive, I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about the discipline of growth, the consistency involved in growth, the discomfort, the delayed gratification, and the process of growth. You know, a lot of times we celebrate the public success, but what we forget to celebrate is the process. You know, I hear something a lot of people say, and I hear, oh, that person's an overnight success. And that's a term usually used to describe someone who's coming to limelight, who now has results that everyone can reckon with. And a lot of times we say, oh, this person's an overnight success. Or some people say, oh, this person's lucky. Look what happened to them. I find it very interesting when I hear people make statements like that. Because what people forget or what people fail to recognize is the process that led to that overnight success. The quiet mornings, the boring repetition, the slow months the person had to put into the process, the delayed gratification, the hours and hours or years and years spent developing themselves. We don't see that in that moment. What everyone sees and celebrates in that moment is the result the person has accomplished or the person's achieved. But what's more important is paying attention to what the person, for example, had to give up to get to where they are right now. What did the person have to put in? What was that cost? What did the growth, what did that result cost the person? That's one thing that a lot of us miss. And we're so interested in wanting the same results that they have. When I see someone who's succeeding in an area, one thing I always say to myself is, are you willing to go through the same process this person went through? Because there's really nothing as being an overnight success. There is always a process to growth. And that's why a lot of people want growth, but only very few people actually experience growth. Because growth doesn't start when the results show. Growth starts when you commit to the process long enough before anyone notices. And here's the truth. Time will eventually separate the people who were serious about growth from the people who just liked the idea of it. There's some of us who just like the idea of growth. You like the results, you celebrate the results, but you're not willing to put in the efforts to go through the process that helps you generate the result. One thing I like to say a lot is take a look at where you want to be. For example, at the end of the year, who do you want to be at the end of the year? Or who do you want to be in 5 years? It's very easy for us to picture the end result. But once you've done that, I want you to backtrack, take a step back, and then say to yourself, what exactly do I need to do to get myself to that end result, to get myself to become that person? And that's one question that we fail to ask ourselves a lot of times. Because if you don't understand the cost of growth, you quit before you see the reward. You quit before you get to the result. You quit before you become that person that you hope to become. We're talking about cost of growth in different areas of your life, in business, for example, in your career, for example, in developing yourself, for example. One thing to note is that growth is never free. There has to be something you put in the process before you get the result. If growth didn't cost anything, then everyone would have the results. For example, in business, people admire companies that blew up. But research on entrepreneurial success shows that most high-growth startups take 7 to 10 years before becoming widely profitable or visible. 7 to 10 years. That means what looks like an overnight success is often nearly a decade of refining ideas, of pivoting, of building systems, of failing privately, and of continuing. A lot of people don't start out what you're supposed to do because of the fear of failure. But failure in itself, it's not a bad thing. When failure becomes a bad thing is when you fail and you refuse to learn from that failure. So if you do fail, what has just happened is that you've learned one new way of not doing that thing. A lot of times we see people succeeding in their careers, but what we don't see is what they actually put in. The years and years of self-development, at getting certifications, improving themselves, improving the value that they have to offer to the company. And we see announcements of promotions, and a lot of people just say to themselves, I wish that was me. But do you also wish that you spent the time going through the same process that that person went through? Discipline is really the price that you have to pay to grow. You have to stay consistent to the things, to the daily habits that help you grow. What does discipline look like? Discipline is choosing long-term success or long-term result over immediate comfort, for example. And I want to talk a bit about the concept of delayed gratification. A lot of us know about this concept, but very few of us actually practice this concept. For example, you're running a business and your business is doing well. You're getting a whole lot of revenue and you're getting profits as well. What do you do at that point? Do you then improve your lifestyle by getting the latest car, for example? Or do you take the profits and pump that profit back into the business? And a lot of times, the reason why some of us don't grow is not being able to delay gratification and spend more time in the process that leads to growth and eventually gets us the results we want to get. Well, take, for example, in your career, you're looking to go to a new stage or another stage in your career. Maybe there are certifications that you have to do. And a lot of us are busy. Yes, we are busy. But what can you do, for example, outside of work? When you get home, are you going to binge on Netflix, for example? Or are you spending time to study to ensure that you get to that point you want to get to in your career? You're working with someone at work, for example, you report to a manager. How do you take feedback from the person you're reporting to? Do you just assume that you know everything already and you just don't want to have any conversation with the person? Or do you go personally to request for feedback and ask, what can I do better? And sometimes when you receive feedback, it doesn't always feel good. But what you need to do is tell yourself, I need to get this feedback so I can decide what I need to work on to grow. We must be willing to pay the price for growth. In your personal life, for example, are you spending time researching or finding out the things that you need to do to become better? Or are you just spending all the free time you have hanging out with friends and just relaxing and doing nothing to improve yourself? The cost of growth is showing up when no one is looking at you, showing up when no one's applauding you. It's practicing before anyone notices. It's staying consistent even when there are no visible results. It's staying disciplined daily, on a daily basis, committing to a habit that helps you become who you say you want to be. Galatians chapter 6 verse 9 tells us, it says, let us not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time we would reap. It says the proper time. It doesn't say immediately. And the mistake a lot of us make is we want to see the results immediately, but it does take time. There is that process before you see the results. And sometimes the process is slow. Sometimes the process takes a very long time. A lot of times the process is not celebrated. No one sees the process, but what everyone would see is the result. Even if it takes years for you to achieve the result, what you want to do is make that commitment to yourself that you're going to stay consistent, irrespective of how long it takes for you to get the results that you want. And where a lot of people give up is during that time where it looks like nothing's happening, but growth is actually happening. It looks like on the outside, there are no changes. But what you need to do is stick to the process at that time. Psychologists call that time, that process, the plateau of latent potential. It's where your effort accumulates before the results appear. And like I said earlier, a lot of people quit at this point. But this is a commitment you have to make to yourself, that no matter how long it takes, no matter what you have to give to get to that point, you will continue to do that. And I talked about delayed gratification earlier. Delayed gratification is saying no to immediate pleasure, saying no to immediate satisfaction, and focusing instead on the process to get the results that you want to get to. Growth is not about comfort. Growth and comfort, they rarely coexist. You can grow into a new season of your life by holding on firmly to the previous one. If you want to become a better person, there are certain things that you have to let go of for you to emerge as a better person. And sometimes staying disciplined and staying committed to the process of growth means that you might be misunderstood by some people around you. People sometimes don't understand that process you're going through. People sometimes don't understand why you can't hang out with them because you want to spend more time investing in yourself. And it is your responsibility to ensure that you help them understand the process you're going through. But the truth is, not everyone would understand, and that's fine. There's certain relationships that would be dropped off from your life just because of that process you're going through. And one thing you need to understand is you can't necessarily carry everyone along that process of growth. It's a personal decision that everyone has to make to become the best versions of themselves. And if someone around you wants to keep discouraging you from taking that journey, that's a relationship that you might not be able to continue with if you want to achieve the results you want. You want to take a look at the 5 closest people to you in your circle. The quality of your life or who you're eventually going to become is largely a reflection of the people that are around you. So what you want to do is you want to ensure that you're surrounding yourself with people who understand where you're going and who can encourage you and help you on that journey of growth. You don't want to surround yourself with people who have different values from you. You don't want to surround yourself with people who do not see the vision of the future you're trying to create for yourself. You want to ensure that you're intentional about surrounding yourself with people who have the same mindset as you, who have the same resolve to grow, who want to become better versions of themselves. There are times I pick up the phone and speak with my friends, and once I'm done with that conversation, I'm fired up. I want to do more. There was this conversation I had with someone recently, and we were just talking about getting certain things done. We're talking about what God would have us do. And I ended that call, and I tell you, I was up all night because I was fired up by that conversation. And I told myself, I'm going to get this done before the next morning. I was that fired up by that conversation. You don't want to have conversations with people who you tell them what you're trying to achieve, and they're like, oh, well, I get what you're saying, but do you think we could hang out and just go have fun? And there's nothing wrong with having fun. But like I said, there's the time for everything. There is that principle of delayed gratification for you to be able to achieve the things that you set your mind to achieve. Time always tells the truth. Two people can start off at the same time. Picture that. Two people starting off at the same time with the same goals in mind, with the same end results in mind. They have the same excitement. They have the same goals. But the truth is, those two people, if their process is different, if their commitment to the daily habits that leads to growth is different, they're going to end up in different places in 5 years, for example. And why is that, you ask? Time separates. Time reveals the truth. Time separates the disciplined from those who are distracted. Time separates those who are committed from those who are casual. Time separates those who are patient from those who are impulsive. Time doesn't reward intensity. What time rewards is consistency. So you're not trying to get things done and see the results in just one day or in just 1 month. A person who would grow is a person who will be committed to being consistent over time until they see the results they want to see in their lives. And time tells apart the people who paid attention to the discipline of growth. It differentiates them from the people who didn't. And one thing I want to end with today is the cost of not growing. Now, we've talked about being committed to the process, being willing to remain consistent until you see the results, being willing to sacrifice certain things to get to the point where you want to get to. Now, the truth is, if you're not consciously growing and you're just staying the same, there is a cost to that as well. The cost of not growing is regret. You're going to compare your life years down the line with what it could have been. And this is not talking about comparing yourself with other people. I'm very big on not comparing yourself with others, but you must always compare yourself right now, the version of who you are right now, with the version that you were before. And you're going to look back, and the cost of not growing would be regret. Missed opportunities. Research consistently shows that people regret inaction more than action long term. So the cost of growth is high, but the cost of regret is higher. And if you are at that point where you feel there's certain things you should have done in the past that you haven't done, and you're feeling regret now, the key right now is don't dwell on that. Don't dwell on the inactions of the past. Don't dwell on the mistakes you made in the past. Take action right away and begin to commit to the process of growth. Hebrews 12 verse 11 says, no discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. It says later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it. What that means is that the discipline of growth is uncomfortable in the moment. The reward is not immediate. It produces something long term, but it stretches you in the moment. It trains you. It produces stability. The discipline of growth produces stability. It produces competence. It produces maturity. But the key word here is later. Growth always has a later attached to it. It's not a one-time process. It's not something that happens immediately. It's you putting in the effort daily, consistently to see the result later. I want to use a quick analogy here before I wrap up today's session, and that's the bamboo analogy. It's one of the most powerful metaphors for growth. The Chinese bamboo tree. When you plant a Chinese bamboo seed, you water it, you fertilize it, you care for it. In the first year, nothing happens. Second year, nothing happens. The third year, nothing still happens. The fourth year, you see nothing overground. But in the fifth year, in just a few weeks, it can grow up to 80 to 90 feet tall. And this is a key question. Did the bamboo tree just grow 90 feet in 6 weeks? No. What was happening was that it was growing underground for 5 years. It was building roots, in deep roots, in extensive roots strong enough to support the height of the bamboo tree. And the lesson from that analogy is, if the bamboo tree had grown upward too quickly without root development, it would probably collapse. The visible growth required the invisible preparation. So there's something you have to do behind the closed doors. Before everyone applauds you, there's that process of growth. In business, it could be you investing in your business and there's no explosion yet. You're building systems, you're gaining skills, you're building your reputation, you're building credibility. But when the momentum hits, because you've grown roots downwards, you would collapse. In personal development, in your career, for example, the results might not happen immediately, but what's more important is that you're growing root downwards. You're improving the quality of yourself. You're becoming the best version of yourself. So maybe you're in that stage in life where you're not seeing the growth above ground yet and you're getting discouraged. It feels like there's nothing happening. I want to encourage you today. You're going roots downwards. You're building capacity. That's what's happening. And when your season comes for the results, when your season of applause comes, you're going to rise in a way that's going to be sustainable because you've grown roots downwards. And if you stop watering yourself, just like the bamboo tree, if you get discouraged in the second year or in the third year, because you see nothing, you're going to kill the process. And like I said earlier, many people quit before they see the result of the process. But what you want is you want to stay committed to the process of growth. You want to stay consistent. Maybe you're in your bamboo season. Nothing's visible yet. That doesn't mean nothing is happening. Growth happens inwards first. It happens underground first before it comes into the limelight. And like I said earlier, it's been a recurring theme in our conversation today. Growth will cost you. It would cost you your comfort. It would cost you consistency. It would feel painful. It would feel uncomfortable. But what happens when you grow, when you commit to the process of growth, is that you build capacity, you build character, you build influence. The people you admire today did not skip the process. Nope. They just stayed in it longer than the most. It might be painful now, but it produces a harvest later. So here's the real question for you. When time tells your story, would time reveal that you were serious about growth or that you only liked the idea of it? Because some of us, a lot of us, like the idea of growth, but only a few commit to the process. So here's my encouragement to you today. Practice the discipline of growth in private, and that will eventually produce results in public. Thank you for joining me on the 360 Growth Podcast. I do hope that you learned something from this episode. And until I see you the next time, I hope that you would spend your time going through the process of growth and not being discouraged until you see the results.